teacher, a woman trusted to guide children, to protect them, to keep them safe. But on the night of June 9th, 2012, she gathered 7 teenagers around a fire and told them something that made their skin crawl. "There's something inside you," she whispered. "Something evil. We need to let it out." There came the broken glass, the blood, the burning flesh. And the worst part, not one of them ran. What did she do to them? What did she make them believe? And why, after everything, did they stay silent? This is the story of Danielle Harkins, the Florida teacher who led her students into the fire. Just before we go into the details of this story, I need you to understand that we have put a lot of work into researching, scripting, and editing this video for your consumption, and the only gift we need from you in return is your subscription to this channel. If you have already done that, thank you very much. You are the reason why we still work very hard on this channel. Now, let's get cracking. Before the fire, before the blood, before the screams, she was just a teacher. Danielle Harkins taught literacy at the Lealman and Asian Neighborhood Family Center in St. Petersburg, Florida. For years, she dedicated herself to her students. She stayed late to tutor them, help them when they struggled. Parents trusted her. Colleagues respected her. Her students saw her as more than just a teacher. She was a mentor. But beneath the surface, something was changing. In the months leading up to June of 2012, Danielle Harkins was going through a bitter divorce, a custody battle, a fight over her children, a fight over her life, and something inside of her broke. She became withdrawn, stopped answering phone calls, stopped talking to friends, stopped looking people in the eye. The woman who once spoke about education, about shaping young minds, now spoke about something else. Demons. She told those close to her that she had felt something dark inside herself, but that she had finally gotten rid of it. What did she mean? No one knew, not then. Then things got stranger. Danielle Harkins started talking about purification, cleansing the body, ridding the soul of evil. She spoke of spirits, of entities that attached themselves to people, of things that lived inside us without us even knowing. She believed something dark had taken root in the people around her, and worst of all, she believed it was inside her students. Her behavior became erratic. Lessons turned into warnings. Words of encouragement turned into cryptic messages. She told her students they needed to prepare, that there was something wrong with them, something they couldn't see. No one stopped her. No one knew how. And then one night, she gathered 7 of them by the waterfront, told them to stand in a circle, lit a fire, and whispered words that made their skin crawl. "There's something inside you," she said, "something evil. We need to let it out." And that's when the real horror began. It was supposed to be a normal summer night. June 9th, 2012, St. Petersburg, Florida. The sun had set, leaving behind streaks of deep red and violet over the water. The air was warm, heavy with salt. The kind of night where teenagers might sneak out to meet friends, to feel free. 7 of them received a message from their former teacher, Danielle Harkins. 6 boys, 1 girl. She wanted to see them. She told them to meet her at the waterfront near the St. Petersburg Pier. None of them questioned it. They arrived just after dusk, one by one. Some still in their school clothes, others in shorts and t-shirts, the Florida heat still clinging to their skin. And there she was, Danielle Harkins, standing in front of a fire, her face flickering in the orange glow. She didn't greet them, didn't ask about their summer. She only watched them, waiting. Then she spoke. "There is darkness inside you," she said. "You don't know it yet, but it's there." The teenager shifted uncomfortably, but no one laughed. No one left. She started chanting, low, rhythmic, words they didn't understand. Then she moved, dancing in slow, deliberate circles around the fire. The flames reflected in her eyes, her hands lifted toward the night sky. She told them they had to be cleansed, that the darkness inside them had to come out. At first, no one moved. No one knew what to say. Then she told them what had to be done. "You have to let it out," she whispered. "Cut it out of you." Danielle Harkins reached down and picked up the jagged neck of a broken bottle. The firelight glinted off the sharp edges as she turned toward the first boy. She dragged the glass across his back. He gasped. Sharp, sudden pain. Blood rose in a thin, glistening line. "Don't fight it," she told him. "This is the only way." Another student stepped back, but she didn't let him leave. She turned to him, pressing the jagged bottle to his throat. His pulse hammered beneath the glass. Then another cut, short, precise. He didn't scream. None of them did. Bleeding wasn't enough. The demons had to be sealed out, or they would come back. She took a small key and held it over the fire. The metal glowed red hot. The students watched, frozen, as she lifted it, pressed it against the open wound on the boy's neck. His body jerked, but he didn't pull away. Then she tried something else. She turned to another student, held the flame against his open cut. But the wind kept blowing it out. Danielle's eyes darkened. She muttered something under her breath. Then she reached into her bag, a bottle of perfume. She grabbed the student's hand, poured the liquid over his skin. The sharp floral scent filled the air. And then she struck the lighter again. His skin ignited instantly. The boy screamed. The flames danced up his arm. His fingers curled inward, tendons tightening. He gasped, eyes wide in horror. And yet, no one stopped her. Eventually, the students drifted away from the fire, their bodies aching, their skin raw. Not one of them went to the police. Not one of them told their parents. Not until days later, when a single text message from one of the students made its way to a friend. That friend told his parents. That's when the police got involved. The report came in. The details were almost impossible to believe. A teacher, a fire, students bleeding, burning, screaming. Detectives arrived at the school expecting confusion, miscommunication, a misunderstanding. But the more they asked, the more they listened, the more disturbing the story became. Danielle Harkins was arrested within hours. She didn't fight, she didn't run, she didn't protest. But when investigators questioned her, she refused to explain. Detective Mike Puitz later said, "She hasn't told us exactly what she was trying to accomplish with this. Not once did she say the word ritual. Not once did she use the word possession. She offered no defense, no justification, no excuses. She simply wouldn't answer. Authorities charged her with aggravated battery and child abuse. Her mugshot was plastered across every news station in Florida. The headline, "The devil-worshipping teacher." But was she? Or was there something else at play? 7 students stood in that circle by the fire. 7 students watched her slice open skin, press burning metal into flesh, set a boy's hand on fire. 7 students could have spoken out against her, but only one did. The rest stayed silent. They refused to testify, refused to answer questions, refused to say anything at all. Why? Fear? Loyalty? Or was it something darker? They refused to speak. But what if they believed in what she did? 7 teenagers stood in that circle. 7 teenagers followed her orders. 7 teenagers walked away from that ritual. But have they ever been the same? What really happened that night? Was Danielle Harkins simply an unstable woman, unraveling under the weight of her own mind? Or was something else at play? A force older than her? Older than all of us? Throughout history, cults have often formed around a single, charismatic figure. Someone with unwavering belief. Someone who sees the world differently. Someone who convinces others to follow them, no matter how dangerous the path. Danielle Harkins was not a known cult leader, not officially. But something changed in her, something radical. Had she been introduced to something? A book, a mentor, a hidden group? Did she discover this ritual, or was she taught it? There are whispers of underground spiritual movements in Florida, small, secretive circles of people who believe in purification through pain, bloodletting, fire, ritualistic suffering as a path to enlightenment. Most of these groups operate in shadows, unrecorded, unnamed. Is it possible that Danielle Harkins had become one of them? Mental health experts who analyze Danielle Harkins's case have a simpler explanation: delusion. They claim her recent divorce triggered something deep inside her, a schism, a break from reality, that she spiraled into religious psychosis, a rare but documented phenomenon where a person becomes convinced that they are on a mission from God or something else. They say she truly believed she was saving those kids. But here's the problem. People experiencing delusions often create their own belief systems. They invent rituals. They fabricate methods of purification. Danielle Harkins didn't. Her methods were precise, specific, structured, like something passed down. So, if this wasn't just a psychotic break, if this wasn't just something she imagined, then where did she learn it? Florida has a history of strange and violent spiritual practices, cults, rituals, cases that defy logical explanation. In the early 1990s, a group calling themselves the Order of the Blood Moon was arrested for attempting a cleansing ritual involving self-inflicted wounds and fire. Their leader, a former school teacher. In 2005, police discovered a hidden compound in the Florida Everglades. Investigators found burnt wooden effigies, ceremonial daggers, and symbols drawn in blood. The group never named, the members never found. And then there's St. Petersburg itself, a city known for its palm trees and beaches, but also its history of disappearances, unsolved cases, strange events that never quite add up. Was Danielle Harkins just another name in a long line of Florida's forgotten horrors? Or was she something else entirely? They had every reason to speak out, to expose her, to condemn her. But instead, they stayed silent. Only one of the 7 teenagers agreed to testify against her. The rest refused. No explanations. No statements. Nothing. People assumed it was trauma, that they were too afraid, too ashamed. But what if that's not the reason? What if they believed in what she did? What if, in the years since, they've done it again? 7 teenagers walked away from that ritual, but have they ever been the same? After everything, after the fire, the blood, the silence, Danielle Harkins stood before a judge. Her charges: aggravated battery, child abuse. The courtroom was silent as the sentence was read. 6 months. That was all. She wasn't locked away for life. She wasn't sent to a psychiatric facility. No deeper investigation. No further questioning. 6 months in county jail. Then she was free. In late 2012, Danielle Harkins walked out of jail and disappeared. There are no interviews, no public statements, no records of where she went. She didn't write a book, didn't appear on television, didn't try to clear her name. She vanished. Some say she changed her name, moved to a different state, started over. Others believe she never left Florida, that she's still there, hiding in plain sight, watching, waiting. The question is, waiting for what? Why did she do it? Not once, not in court, not to police, not even to her closest friends, did Danielle Harkins ever explain herself. She never called it a ritual, never said the word demons, never admitted to believing in anything, and yet she burned them. She cut them. She whispered that something was inside them, that it had to be let out, that it had to be sealed away. What did she truly believe? And more importantly, does she still believe it now? Some say Danielle Harkins was just a woman who lost her mind. Others believe she tapped into something ancient, something that wanted to be set free. But the scariest part? We may never know the truth.